If you would like to talk at tonight's meeting, please fill out a comment card in the back and bring it to the city secretary. All right, that means that we start the meeting, and we're going to start our June regular meeting with the city secretary. We have a quorum.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then moving on to invocation and pledge of allegiance by Dr. Avery Lamalley of the Church at Jersey Village.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council leaders, chiefs, citizens. Join me for a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you with such grateful hearts that you would bless us to be in this gathering on this day. And we thank you because we are recipients of the abundance of your blessings, not only upon this city, but our lives. And we thank you for the dedicated servants, the leaders, all those who serve the village. And we ask, God, that you just continue to grant them your wisdom, discernment as decisions are made for the betterment and the well-being of Jersey Village. That you continue to bless the citizenry, that we are cooperative, and that we come together to God to make it an even better village for generations to come. Bless us in this night is our prayer. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Join me to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Pastor. And then next we have citizen comments. Since you have signed a card and wish to speak, City Council be heard at this time. Compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, unless the subject matter is on the agenda, council and city staff members are prevented from discussing the subject and may only respond with statements of factual information or existing policy. Citizens limited to 5 minutes. And first is Michael Turgeon.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council.
My name is Michael Terigian. I'm a resident of Jersey Village. I know our city charter can only be amended every 2 years, so I have some changes that I'd like to suggest we put up for a vote at the next appropriate election. 3 changes to the city charter. First, I'd like to suggest that we change the city council seats, instead of numbered seats, to all the seats being at large. The individual places do little except determine where you sit in the dais, and it does little but limit competition. 2 strong candidates who file for the same place split a vote, while other seats go unopposed. And too often, those unopposed races are the product of backroom arrangements where a seat is settled before residents ever get a say. And an unopposed race is not a convenience, it's a loss for residents. When no one has to compete for your vote, no one has to earn it. With at-large seats, every open seat is contested together, and the top vote-getters win. More candidates, fewer empty races, and far less room to hand out a seat behind closed doors. This is not untested. Addison, Texas, Nassau Bay, Universal City, Bee Cave are just some of the cities in Texas that have all their council seats at large. Second, I would like to propose that we adopt a unanimous council vote to be required for any major expenditure or long-term commitment. And if the council can't agree unanimously, then we send the decision to the voters. And we've seen firsthand why this mattered. On the proposed city campus, the voters said no 3 times, yet 3 city council members recently voted to move ahead anyway. And just weeks later, not one of those 3 will remain on this council. A decision that size should require either real consensus on the dais or the consent of the people who pay for it. This change guarantees one or the other. And the third is to make the mayor an appointed position selected by the council. So still a 2-year term, but the mayor's race is also one that's sometimes never contested, so the election really gives us a choice anyway. Letting the council select the presiding officer and draw on experience in his leadership, while the term limits keep that leadership fresh and accountable. None of these is radical. Together they do 3 simple things. They put more choices in front of voters, invite more candidates to run, and ensure our largest spending decisions reflect the will of the residents rather than the preference of a few. I respectfully ask the council place these charter amendments on the next appropriate ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Camelia Terigian.
Why are you matching? I love the outfit. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Camelia Terigian, and I'm a proud resident of Jersey Village. The city manager responded to my review of the herbicides records, and I wanted to address that response directly because on its own terms, it does not resolve the issue I raised. His main point is that for these sites, the label is governed by the strength of the mix on the spray to wet basis, not by square footage. I will accept that, but the same label instructions that allow spray to wet basis also says in plain words not to spray to point of runoff. And the label states that using the product in a way inconsistent with its labeling it's a violation of federal law. So a mix within the allowed strength still does not permit spraying the ground until it's soaked. Under the city's own framework, the question is not how strong the mix was, is whether the product was applied to the point of runoff on the ground that drains into the bayou. The response also concedes that required records are missing the application start time and that this should not have happened. I appreciate the candor, but the city cannot certify that this application were proper using records it admits are incomplete. Saying the records show no confirmed misuse is not the same as saying they show compliance. With the gaps the city concedes, they show neither. And the response never addressed the central failure. The city's own guidelines require public notice before and after spraying. No notice was given to families using that park. The two fixtures the cities offered was recording the time, the start time, and noting the weather. Do not include the notice. So by city's own list, it still has not committed to warning the public. So I respectfully request the city to stop the use of synthetic herbicides in public spaces and for this matter to be placed on the July agenda to provide the residents an opportunity to voice their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Sellers.
Evening all. Joe Sellers, Jersey Village resident. So I have 2 points for tonight. One was also with the herbicide application that we're doing in the city currently right now. Points of concern for myself is that in the areas where we have high public use or high animal use, such as the dog park, that yes, I understand that the herbicide is an easy method to be able to kill along the lines and around the trees. But one of the contentions at the dog park is that the run line and the trees are where the dogs spend the most time. So we're giving them additional time in the herbicide-infested areas. I do understand that we do need to come up and do some kind of mitigation because of the weeds and such along the area. Previous years it was done with weed eaters rather than the herbicide. I know that was when there was a different parks person that was working the dog park, and I can only specifically talk on the dog park because I've been there since the conception of it, and I do know what has changed, and that is one of the items that has changed. The second item that I'm bringing up is also about the dog park. My concern is that what has happened is that we've lost what I call a preventive maintenance check there at the dog park, where we used to see more of the parks persons actually doing the walkthrough, checking that things are actually operational, that the gates are proper and such as that. Currently, right now, that does not seem to be happening. I have taken upon myself several times to do small repairs and such, and I have no issue with that. But the issue currently right now is that as the lawn crew comes into the park, one is that the locking post in the double gates is not being shut properly, and that is because of poor maintenance, because of how the post has to inset into the ground. Because that it's not kept up with that, they can't put the post all the way down, which does not allow the padlock to be put on properly. That also, along with coming into the dog park, because that and the wind, high winds or rain, blows the gate open, and then dogs can escape. The other issue is that we have 3 non-functional latches, self-latches, on the park gates currently right now. They're simple doorknobs that are used, but over time, again, it's a maintenance item. Over time, nobody has checked, followed through, or changed any of the parts in those. We've also gotten to the point to where gate number 1 into the large dog park has suffered a giant rip because of the door slamming shut several times and causing that. That's gone on for about 3 weeks currently. So I guess what I'm saying is if there's not a preventive maintenance list or a check sheet that somebody can do, that might be something that should be introduced. And, maybe that's through the Parks Department, such as that. My issue is that I never seem to be able to speak in the Parks Department because I don't have the planning and the proper presence. By the time I come in with an issue, I'm told that I wasn't on the schedule at the right moment and things of that nature. But I would love to help with anybody there is, questions or anything. Again, Joe Sellers. I do some of the welding and things like that have happened at the dog park. And probably coming up, I'll probably end up taking the gate off and having to weld repair that. But that's the reason I bring those things up, the care of the park that we have, and then also to worry about the animals and such with the herbicides that we're using within the dog park. Thank you very much.
Joe, I appreciate it. And I'm a fan of checklists. I am not out there enough to know what gate 1 is. Could you tell me where that is?
Okay, gate 1 would be at the Lakeview side of the dog park on the large dog side.
Okay. I think I understand what that's at. Thank you.
Okay.
Eric Canal.
Mayor Singleton, members of council, my name is Eric Canal. I live at 15601 Singapore Lane, and I've been a resident since 2020. Tonight's regular agenda item 3 is covered in the staff report on pages 152 through 169 of your packet. I'm asking council to hold that exemption at its current $113,000 level, not because Jersey Village hasn't supported its seniors, but because of what may come next from Texas legislator. Let's start with the record. In the last 7 years, City Council has raised the over 65 exemption 3 separate times, from $50,000 to $75,000 in 2019, to $100,000 in 2021, to $113,000 in 2023. Over that same period, the disabled exemption went from $20,000 to $200,000, a tenfold increase, and the homestead exemption was raised to 20%, the maximum the state allows. Today's question isn't whether Jersey Village supports its seniors. The question is whether this specific increase at this specific moment is the right call. The proposed $7,000 increase saves each qualifying household about $57 a year, $4.75 a month. To the city, that's $57,195 in lost annual revenue, based on the 1,003 households currently receiving the exemption. By itself, that's modest. But staff's report gives 2 reasons why modest isn't the end of the story. I want to acknowledge something directly. Jersey Village tax rate has climbed from 0.7425 to about 0.8146 since 2023. And that increase has quietly eaten into the value of every exemption increased seniors have received over that time. That's real and it matters. But a yearly $57 increase doesn't meaningfully offset that erosion. If council wants to address it seriously, that deserves its own deliberate conversation, not a side effect of tonight's vote made before we know what's coming from Texas legislature. Second, Lieutenant Governor Patrick's Operation Double Nickel would lower the statewide qualifying age for senior property tax exemptions from 65 to 55, possibly as early as 2027 legislative session. If that passes, our local exemption automatically extends to the 55-plus population, and Jersey Village has no authority to set a different threshold. Right now, 63.9% of Jersey Village homes are headed by someone 55 or older. Staff estimates that if the age drops, the annual exemption-related revenue loss would jump from today's $923,000 baseline to somewhere between $1.33 million and $1.41 million, an increase of $407,000 to $489,000 a year, depending on where our exemption sits when that happens. Here's the number I want you to sit with. That exact same $7,000 increase we're voting on tonight does not cost the same amount in every future. Staff modeled this two ways. If we stay at $113,000 and the state lowers the age to 55, the city's added exposure is about $407,000 a year. If we're at $120 when that happens, it's $489,000 a year. That $82,400 difference is the marginal cost of tonight's decision. It's roughly 44% more expensive in a scenario staff itself calls a real possibility for next year's session. And once that happens, voter approval tax rate rules make it very hard to walk back. And who absorbs that? Today, it's the 916 Jersey Village households that hold no over 65 or disabled exemption, plus our commercial base. But that group isn't fixed. Staff projects this exempt share of homestead grows toward 59% in 2030 and potentially 74% under the 55-plus scenario. At 74%, the non-exempt pool shrinks to roughly 500 households. So the same $489,000 burden, or whatever rate adjustment follows it, gets spread across nearly half as many taxpayers as it would today. I'm not asking council to turn its back on seniors. Our record over the last 7 years makes that clear. I'm asking council to wait. Your staff report poses 6 questions for your consideration. Question 4 asks, would council prefer to delay a final decision until after the 2027 legislative session to assess the 55-plus risk before setting the exemption level? That is the decision in front of you tonight. I'm asking you to answer that question with yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Whitner.
Hello. Evan's out of town, so here I am. My name is Jennifer Whitner, and much of the data in this comment is informed by my husband, also a resident of Jersey Village, who is a financial planner. I'm here tonight to speak regarding our upcoming budget planning, specifically to urge this council to maintain our current over 65 homestead exemption rather than increasing it any further. We all want to support our senior residents. They are a vital part of the fabric of Jersey Village, offering experience and perspective to an increasingly younger demographic. But when we look at the math and our city's physical and financial reality, raising this exemption any higher threatens our ability to fund basic services and places an unfair burden on the rest of our community. First, we must acknowledge that our seniors are already highly protected by sweeping state-level tax relief. Thanks to Propositions 11 and 13, the state-mandated school property tax exemption for seniors is now $200,000. Because school taxes usually make up a large portion of any homeowner's tax bill, and because the dollar amount for school taxes is permanently capped once you turn 65, the state has already insulated our senior neighbors from being priced out of their homes by rising values or increasing tax rates. Second, the city of Jersey Village is already incredibly generous. We offer the absolute maximum 20% local optional homestead exemption on top of a $113,000 over 65 exemption. With our median home value sitting in the mid to high 300,000s, the typical senior in Jersey Village maintains an exemption from JV taxes on approximately half of their home's appraised value. This is remarkably compassionate and is a remarkably compassionate and balanced policy as it stands. Speaking of standing, I hope you'll stand right next to me and be still. Thank you. All right. Third, we have to look at our city's physical and financial limits. Jersey Village is completely landlocked. We cannot build new master plan subdivisions to grow our tax base. Nearly all of our revenue has to come from existing properties, and we have major non-deferrable bills to pay. Our voters just approved Proposition B, authorizing $20 million in debt to repair our critical aging water, sewer, and drainage infrastructure, which we support. We also have backlogs for neighborhood streets that need repaving, along with critical sidewalk repairs. Thank you. We did chat about this beforehand, but they're young. If we erode our municipal tax base even further, we will be forced to pay for these voter-authorized bonds and infrastructure repairs by either delaying safety projects or shifting the tax burden directly onto younger families and local businesses. Our younger families are already struggling with an unprecedented economic landscape, including high mortgage rates, inflation, and rising home costs. Shifting the tax burden off of accumulated home equity and onto young families who are trying to build a future here is economically regressive. Finally, for any senior resident facing genuine financial hardship, there's already a legal safety net. Under Texas Tax Code Section 33.06, qualifying seniors can defer their property taxes at a low 5% interest rate. This protects seniors from displacement while ensuring the city eventually recovers that revenue if the property changes hands. To ensure they are paying the absolute minimum in property taxes, senior homeowners can take several proactive steps, such as verifying the accuracy of their exemptions with HCAD, formally protesting their property's appraised value each year, and utilizing the interest-free quarterly installment payment plans or property tax deferral if eligible. I deeply value the seniors of Jersey Village and the benefit they bring to our community. I want to ensure that younger residents are equally supported from my financial and tax standpoint. Younger families are actively moving to the village. In fact, several of our close friends are moving out of the loop and looking to Jersey Village as the place to set down roots and raise families. They are drawn here by the same characteristics that drew in senior residents decades ago: the small town charm nestled within the big city, the lack of an HOA, strong community programs, high-quality parks and amenities, and the incredible fire and police services. Jersey Village truly is a destination community, and the younger generation sees that. Let's work together to ensure that all residents of JV are fairly supported by maintaining our current over 65 exemption limits. The financial future and well-being of our community depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say that this right here is exactly why all of us are up here. This. You coming with your kids in their adorable pajamas and swinging water bottles. Get it, boy. I love it. And speaking in front of them, setting an example, like this is what we're living for. So thank you.
Kids are always fun. I know. Love kids. Joe Hewitt.
I know, Joe. How are you?
I'm sure.
Joe, how are you going to follow that?
I said I don't know how to follow that, but
seriously, how do you follow cute? I don't know. So, and I'm talking about seniors in a different way. So, anyway, good evening, the mayor and council members. My name is Joe Hewitt, 15917 Lakeview Drive, and I am president of Jersey Village Senior Outreach, JVSO. JVSO is a 501c3 nonprofit organization run entirely by volunteers, serving approximately 250 members. We are celebrating our 10 years since our founding, 2 years in development, and 8 years in operation. We have no paid staff. Every program, service, and activity is created and delivered by volunteers in our community. With an annual dues of $50, we are a membership-based organization that operates 6 days a week. Our programs include walking groups, yoga, book clubs, social hours, educational presentations, mahjong groups, cooking classes, day trips, film club, and much more. We also provide practical support services such as transportation assistance, minor home repairs, technology help, home visits, and emergency preparedness that helps members who are 55 years and better, helping them to remain independent, safe, and active, as well as connected in our community. We are one of only 4 villages in Texas. Across the country, there are more than 300 villages. Jersey Village has become recognized as an example of what a strong, successful village can look like. In fact, 2 individuals recently purchased homes here specifically so that they could join JVSO. And we regularly receive inquiries from people outside of the city asking if they can participate, but they can't because they don't live in JV. That said, we currently use Building A in the administrative complex 4 to 5 days a week. That space has become essential to our growth. Before it was available, we relied on the Civic Center, but we frequently were displaced by other city needs such as elections, court operations, police and fire trainings. We understand that these facilities serve many important purposes and many people depend on them. However, a stable community space is critical to JVSO because we depend on 3 things: our partnership with the city, our volunteers, and the access to a reliable place to meet. If one of those 3 things is removed, our organization will become unstable. If we lose access to space, even temporarily, the impact on the organization could be substantial. But more importantly, it would be significantly affecting the members who have benefited from the programs, services, relationships, and the sense of community we provide. As engagement declines, the organization itself would also be affected, putting at risk the strong foundation and community we have put and spent time into for the past decade. So, I respectfully ask that you consider the future of the administrative complex. You allow for a phased approach that maintains continuity for existing organizations and ensure dedicated community space is preserved in the future, not just for us, but all ages and all organizations. Our organization exists because people show up for each other. Without a place to gather, that connection will be the first thing we lose, and it will be the hardest thing for us to rebuild. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. JVSO is an irreplaceable asset. My wife's aunt was just forced to move to Houston for a variety of reasons, and overwhelmingly, she said several times, I need to find a place in Jersey Village, because one of those strong contributing factors was JVSO. And while she had to move just outside, she is continuously looking for a way to get residents in the city so that she can attend and be part of your group. Kimberly Anal.
My name is Kimberly Anal, and I live at 15601 Singapore Lane. For my 57th installment on Jersey Village, the other day I read a social media for professionals post from a local leader to reread a book that centered around loving your city. Accomplished author and public speaker Peter Kojimayama has spent a number of years educating and advocating for city, governments, and citizens to develop the two-way street of their relationship with little gestures or love notes to build this relationship by way of co-creators. The idea of co-creators are those citizens who unofficially are making their communities better, more interesting, more lovable places. How would a city take advantage of this idea? City staff would identify co-creators, bring them together, ask them for their help, amplify what they naturally do, provide resources, not necessarily money, ask them to identify other co-creators, and expand the circle. How do we get this co-creator engine energized? We can have citizens communicate what their favorite aspect is of Jersey Village: blooming trees in the parks, a favorite sweet treat dessert spot, walking or kayaking the nature trail park, young kiddos playing with delight at the year-old Carol Fox playground, or participating in the various social groups. We can also have branded swag to show off how much we love our city. Be seen on vacation wearing an I Heart JV t-shirt as the ultimate public display of affection. Younger private citizens could have amazing ideas of community building, such as 22-year-old Rob Bliss's idea to record the Grand Rapids citizens' lip dub of American Pie, and the more simple pillow fights, flying paper airplanes, and even a zombie walk in the city park. Because asking the question, where's the fun, is to avoid being a bland community. When citizens and visitors experience surprise and delight, they are more likely to remember the visit, spend money at local establishments, and attend regular events like farmers markets. When you're not at home or at work, the absolute bonus of third places is to increase socializing. Our still under construction planning for the Jersey Village City Hall's Community Center will have multi-purpose physical spaces for varied groups to be together for games, sewing, painting rocks, children's development organizations, teenager activities, and senior citizens, because play is pretty important and central to our relationships with other people. Unstructured, unplanned moments when you're hanging out with your friends and family just at play, a bedrock of the relationship with other people, and we need an opportunity to play with our cities as well. A common road complaint from citizens is the existence of potholes. Once they get repaired, citizens say, it doesn't suck as much here now. And the complainers may go on to complain about other things. When people smile because of the surprise and delight in your city, good things are going to happen. When they are seen as legitimate objectives in your city, people will be in a good mood and will probably going to spend some money. People don't make that smiling face in your city when you fix potholes for them. No. But they do make that smiling face when you surprise and delight them. George Hartwell, then mayor of Grand Rapids, Michigan, said that his was the greatest city in the galaxy. Jersey Village is a much smaller city, but we can most definitely become just as great working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. That finishes up citizen comment. Moves to the city manager's report. Austin, please.
Mayor and councilors, the report's in front of you. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
So I have a quick question for you, Chief Bitts. So first of all, I do appreciate you guys taking the fire engine to Launch Pediatrics to show the truck off to the special needs patients. Appreciate that. What caught my attention also was the paging system. Is that being repaired? How?
Can you use the mic for the people that aren't here?
I should know that.
I got you up high now. You forgot you needed it.
Off my, yeah, okay. It's working. We found that there was a patch that was taken off at the dispatch console, and that patch has been put in, and so now it's working again.
So it's no longer an issue?
Not right now.
I will say thank you for coming and making several tiny little humans day. And then the police also stopped by, in addition to fire, and gave us a little bit of show on the way, because unfortunately y'all were called off to an accident on 290. So police stepped in and did a nice little siren show for us. So it was really nice. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's sweet. Also, Chief Keel, you recognized a couple officers, Officer Charles, so thank you for your focus on traffic safety, crime prevention, and community protection, so please pass that along for me. And Officer Harris, who's new to the police department, if I read that correctly, and He's already helping develop the JVPD honor guard, so pass along my thanks as well. I wanted to remind residents that there is a vacation watch program that you can go online and sign up for, which was also mentioned in the report. And I'm not going to hog up everything, but I do want to highlight, I really like the Public Works report a lot. I think Danielle does a great job putting that together. So under there, she talks about mosquito control, which I saw there was some discussion about this online. And there's a frequently asked questions on the city's website. If you go under Public Works and scroll down some, and there'll be a little section where where you can go in and look at the frequently asked questions about that. Golf course, Jersey Meadow. The team there is they're very creative. They're doing a great job. I sent an email to Robert about the Texas Amateur Qualifier in April, and that wasn't mentioned, and that's kind of a big deal. So I would love to see more stuff like that in that report, just to sort of show that it's not just always numbers. There are other really cool things going on. And since this parks and herbicide was mentioned in an email, I wanted to let those of you know that there were a couple emails that did come in. I can't speak for the other council members. I did respond to a couple of them, and I know that I think it was Austin who replied. I haven't read that reply yet, but just know that it's on the radar. Staff is aware of it, and it got my attention, so I just wanted to kind of bring that to light as well. Oh, and Jennifer, that report, that report was amazing, so thank you very much. And Austin had something to do with that too, so thank you, Austin. I appreciate it.
Austin, the golf courses exceeded revenue, and I saw quite a high number of gross revenue. You have any idea if that set any kind of record or how long it's been? It's been a couple of years since we've seen over 400 like that.
Robert can probably correct me, but I think that was the first time we've ever topped 400,000 in revenue in one single month.
Yeah, we've never hit 400 before.
That is fantastic. Anything else for the city manager report? Moving on to consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to pass the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes. Moving on to the regular agenda. Just item 1. Discuss and consideration accepting the resignation of Michelle Martin, Councilmember Place 3. All right, so this is me. And I wanted to say I appreciate very much Michelle's service and dedication to the residents. I know that this is not very easy, and this was some very difficult conversations, and very much appreciate working with her. And I know this is not the end of your service to the community by any means. That said, we do need to start the process of finding the replacement. And I'm suggesting that we move forward with a process fairly similar to what we've done in the past. I'd like to get some input from council, but like to instruct the city secretary to begin accepting applications using the same web form we use for committees. We'll add a box for the Council Place 3. We'll accept those with a deadline that we set, preferably early enough to be included in the packet for the meeting. And then at the July regular meeting, we will hear a 3-minute pitch and then select a replacement. Does anyone else have some comments or ways they want to do it?
One comment on that with respect to the process. Is it worth just to try to get the person up to speed more quickly, whoever is determined to be put in that position? Is it worth trying to accelerate that process and maybe do a special session just focused on that alone which maybe we could do between now and the July meeting? Just interested on what other council members think.
I'll step in here. I think that having it on the regular agenda is more important, especially time and time again. There's small, it does feel like we do things behind closed doors or backroom arrangements and handout things. So when we have these special sessions, I feel like not as masses attend them, and they're not as well known, and I feel like that will be seen as that, not because that's what any of us do, and we welcome anybody to attend any meeting of anything, but I think the regular session feels more appropriate, just because even though it is a small population, I think the mistrust of doing things in smaller settings is, for whatever reason, not viewed as it should.
I agree with that. I don't really have a strong feeling one way or the other, so it doesn't matter to me.
So, yeah, I don't have a strong feeling either, because it sounds like you're saying, because right when the July meeting happens, we deliberate, then we appoint the person, then they jump right up here. Is that why you're talking? Is that why you mentioned that?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of, and I have no idea in this process how long both the pitch by any person who applies and wants to state why they believe they're the best candidate to step into the vacancy, how long that'll take, and then how long the session will take to discuss and decide upon a person. But I do think, and there's also a constraint, obviously, by council's availability to meet at a special session between now and July. But I'm also thinking from the standpoint of allowing the person who is selected sufficient time to sort of get up to speed and be prepared to jump right in the July meeting. I just think that there's some efficiency there rather than waiting a full 30 days.
Okay, I have a little more to jump in. So I will say this was a very, very difficult decision for me. I've moved outside of Jersey Village, which is why I am resigning. I love this city. I've loved this city since I didn't even know we had a council. I just moved here, and I wanted a couple moms to have a Fourth of July parade and play Go with me, and that's really how this whole thing got started. But I've put in over a decade of my life into this city, and it's not something I want to abandon or leave quickly. I have no intention of doing that. So if somebody who comes in my spot, I really want to feel good about who they are as a person, what they stand for. I want them to think about the city in the same way I did. I've never voted for exactly what I wanted. I voted for what I felt like the city wanted, regardless of my personal thoughts, and I want that same vision. This is not something I want to go quickly or like abruptly. It doesn't need to be that way. We're protected in our charter in this manner. So I really want the best fit. I want the best fit for the people. I mean, of course, I have my own opinions of who I want to sit in the seat, but really, I want the legacy to continue. What we've done over the past decade has been a lot, and we've grown, and it's been beautiful to watch and be a part of. So I'm really not looking to like rush into a special thing and make this all quick and done. I really want it to be the right person with the right heart. So I would like to make a suggestion, if I'm allowed to do so. I know we cannot vote on anything today. It's not on the agenda. And I like the idea of doing what has been done in the past of, I think a couple times since I have been active, that people apply and they come up and give their pitch. And of course, most of these people have been part of committees and they're not strangers to us. So it's not a blind pitch, so I'll say. But reasoning for who I think should sit in this seat really speaks volumes to who spoke today. We hear so much up here about how things are done behind closed doors. And I can't tell you how much it genuinely breaks my heart to hear that, because I literally give away my family time with so much that we do for this city, happily. But to hear girl, if you only knew how many times I would be like, bestie, please come up here and please run. It does not work like that. It does not work like that. We will meet people and friends of friends and see hey, are you interested in being a community servant? Do you have the right heart? Do you have the right soul? Do you have a thick skin? Because people are going to make up things about you, and you have to sit up there and smile and still be kind. So there's no pre-done anything, ever. I literally wish sometimes people could just sit alongside us for about 3 to 4 sessions, and then you would never say that again, because it's not true. But regardless, I'm going off on a soapbox there. I think who I think would be really in this seat right here is someone who's ran against me, who's been, I've sat down and had hard conversations with. I've saw her point, she saw mine, and we still ultimately, even though we disagree on a third of things, her heart has always been there, and my heart has always been there. And I think that's what I want in this spot, is heart. I don't want people just to agree upon something or have a group that they're answering to. I want a bigger picture. So I really am going to say that I do think the seat will be well served by Ashley Brown, and I'm going to highly suggest that you strongly look at her and what she's put into the city as well, and her family and investment in what she's been here for a decade herself. And like I said, we ran against each other. So you want to say we've put our best friends in this seat? No, we don't. It's really who has the ability, the time to run, and you have all those people in front of you, and you support the person who is best for that spot. And that's always been my heart. It has never been about who's my friend or not my friend, even though I do consider Ashley a friend. I think that's kind of a beautiful twist, right? Someone who ran against me in this seat gets the seat when I leave. I think, how beautiful is that? And then, honestly, the amount of effort she's put into this city with committees and backing, the heart and soul of what I hold dear to me, I really, I'm going to get off my soapbox in a minute, but I really would hope the council strongly considers her. I think it kind of just crosses off a lot of things of what I want to lead. It's really, really hard for me to even back away from being up here, but I know I have to. But I think that if I had to pick somebody, having somebody who has heart like me is really important. And I think she has that. And I'm going to stop talking before I cannot talk anymore.
Is there a timeline in terms
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that this is very difficult, and very much appreciate your comments. I wanted to kind of circle back. I know I suggested the regular meeting, and Councilmember Hughes has suggested sooner. I think there's enormous value in that. I would like to move as quickly as possible. I had hoped to do this at this meeting. Unfortunately, that was not an opportunity. My biggest concern with scheduling a meeting in 7 days, as early as we can call a meeting, is letting people know that this exists. At the same time, I feel quite confident that the person that we choose is likely already in this room, because all of us are going to put value on people that are already involved. and they knew about this and they're here already. Not saying any one particular person here, but I feel like it's going to be something like that, right? I believe that Connie and Simon, you're best connected to those that would say, hey, we moved too quickly. So do you not feel...
No, actually, before Michelle spoke, it started dawning me, well, while you were talking, it started dawning me that, yeah, maybe we should give everyone enough time to talk to their families, decide if this is what's best for them, decide if this is, because being up here is a big decision, and it is a commitment. And so I actually do like the idea of giving people time to make that adjustment and deciding that that's the best, that they can commit that kind of time to the city. And so maybe it should be a regular meeting just to give everyone time.
Yeah, and I can understand that perspective. And frequently I'm probably accused of trying to move too quickly and make things happen because I want things to happen yesterday. But I also understand, and I think your point is well taken, that for whoever applies for this position, it is a big decision, and it's a different one than if you've filed an application, run a campaign, you think about that, you have a time frame, you know when the deadline is, etc. And realistically, the community is, as if they read the package in advance of tonight, they knew. Otherwise, they're just learning tonight that Michelle is stepping down and that this position will be available. So I understand and think that I'm okay with waiting. I just think that we need to do everything once that decision is made, once the person is selected, to give them as much of an immersive experience so they can get up to speed as quickly as possible.
Well, my question was, do we have like a timeline in terms of how long we're going to, accept candidates? Is there any thoughts there?
Yeah, my recommendation is that we instruct the city secretary to have the web form adjusted. It's already public. Somebody could apply, but have it adjusted. That can be done tomorrow, and then publicize it. I would like whoever is up here have the executive functioning to be able to turn an application in within a reasonable amount of time. So the agenda is published, now it's almost a week ahead of time, and so I would recommend that we close applications on July 10th at 5 p.m. And that gives the city secretary enough time to have it incorporated and published. When it's published, it looks like it's going to publish about Monday the 13th. Courtney, you have any correction to that, or is that a good timeline?
That works good for me.
That works good for me.
Sounds good. I would support that.
Does anybody have any?
I was just going to say, we'll be publishing and sending out on the 14th, so that gives us plenty of time to get it in the packet.
Yep. Does anybody have any comments on my format style? We give them 3 minutes. If they can't get their point across that amount of time, that speaks to it, and then we select.
I agree, and I think that we're all looking for someone who is already invested in the community, not a stranger that we're meeting for the first 3 minutes. And this would be the continuation of my term, so this is not a large amount of years. It took a couple months before I was already up for re-election.
Yeah, this person will serve in this seat. This will be the first item that I call in July. They will immediately take that seat after we do their oath and be the reigning person in that meeting. I think we all have a lot of different reasons to select somebody up here. Do you have a comment before we close?
I was just going.
Have a motion?
I'll second.
And a second. All those in favor? All those against?
I'm in favor, but reluctantly.
Motion passes.
Only because I have to.
I'm going to make a cautious tale to the city. I don't care for election season. I really don't. Unfortunately, they get kind of nasty in Jersey Village. And I would like to tell the city, You don't have to influence your neighbors. This is not a vote of your neighbors. Put in your application. These are the people you should influence. We have some really fantastic people. I've had people call me. I've already had chats with people who are interested. If you're interested, you should put in for it. Not enough people put in for elections, as Mr. Trojan said earlier. If you're interested, you should put in for it. Let's hear your 3 minutes. It gives you a moment to show the public that you would like to make a difference. All right, we're going to move on to regular agenda item number 2, discussion and consideration ordinance 2026-15, amending 18.187H of the Code of Ordinances to provide the action of Property Standards Board shall be final in appeals of the hotel tier reclassifications by the designated city official and making other findings provisions. City Manager Austin Blease.
Mayor and councilors, thank you. This ordinance here tonight would do 2 things. One, it would take the call for service space threshold from 1.0 for all hotels to any hotel having 100 or fewer rooms, to keep that at 1.0. But if a hotel has more than 100 rooms, it would move it to a 0.8. That means a larger hotel that has more calls for service. Right now we've got one that has over 100 rooms. If they have more calls for service, that they would potentially hit that call for service threshold at a more quicker pace than if we left it at the 1.0. Just based upon the calls that we received to those locations, this is one way that we worked with the city attorney to find a way to try to mitigate some issues there. The other issue is the finality of the tier reclassification appeals. This one would say that the appeals are final. You can appeal it, but currently our ordinance says that the appeal, like if you're a Tier 2 and you appeal, the Tier 2 status is stayed until the end of the appeal. Right now, when you appeal that to courts, it's going to take a long time, and you can run out the clock. So we found that issue. This is the first time we found that issue based upon the Tier 2 statuses from 2025. So those are the 2 big changes, and happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Austin, there was an email that I saw late in the afternoon that came in, some questions about whether the both the appeal process and the 1.0 versus 0.8 for the larger hotels, whether that was adequately disclosed on the agenda. And I think that's really more of a question for the city manager. But do you feel that the way the agenda item was listed and the packet is sufficient notice so that there's no, if this ordinance is passed, that there's no issue with having passed it?
I'll let the city attorney answer that one.
I understand the question. I'm reading the agenda item.
So, and I'll just read part of this. It says the agenda describes F2 as amending Section 18.187H to make the Property Standards Board decision final in tier reclassification appeals. And I think that that's clear on the agenda. But the ordinance also amends Section 18-184B, lowering the calls for service threshold for hotels with more than 100 rooms from 1.0 to 0.8 per room per year. And essentially the contention is if the resident read only the posted agenda, they would not know that council was voting to tighten the classification standard with respect to the 1.0 or the 0.8. And so my question for the city attorney is just not having a strong opinion one way or another, but do you believe that the agenda post provides adequate notice as to both of those items that are on the agenda?
For what it's worth, I think it could be argued either way. Because it's the hotel ordinance, out of an abundance of caution, I would suggest at least bringing item B back at the next meeting. And if you wanted to bring it all back at the next meeting, just do it as one fell swoop, that's obviously fine too, but I would...
Based on that advice, you could just move on?
You want to just, what do you, are you suggesting that we table it to the next, or? Yeah, and I'm perfectly fine doing that. I would rather do it where there's no question, giving, where a resident or a property owner or whoever has, hey, you didn't do it right. I'd rather delay it and get the decision and make it final rather than having it be questioned.
Yeah, I have that opinion too.
Austin, is there any need or reason that we need to continue tonight?
No, I think we can bring it back next month.
Okay, moving on to regular agenda item F3. Thank you, Simon. Discussion and consideration of ordinance 2026-16 modifying the over 65 exemption for tax year 2026. Councilmember Hughes.
I'm sorry, you want me to go ahead and take this? Okay, good. So this is something that came up during the over the last couple of months as we go into budget season, and during the preliminary budget meeting that we had over at the convention center. And there was a question from some seniors that I had received about potentially raising the over 65 homestead exemption. So as I found out at that budget meeting that if there was advocacy for increasing the homestead exemption, the over 65 exemption for those over 65 residents, that it would need to be on this June agenda. And I asked the city manager about it, and he and the director of finance put together a very robust package, very informative package, not just of the consequence of raising the over 65, what that does for the actual homeowners in that situation, but also how it affects the city's overall budget, how the city's over 65 homestead exemption compares to other cities in our general area, how there's a lot of information in here. And the bottom line, and I'm happy to go through it and discuss it with the director of finance or the city manager, but just kind of at a summary level. And I know that Mr. Henao commented about, while he was compassionate to the concerns of senior residents, he was also concerned about the budget, as was Ms. Withner. The bottom line is that at the $113,000 level, raising the over 65 exemption to $120,000, basically to that individual homeowner, makes a difference of $57 per year, which is not it's not nothing, but it's not substantial. From the standpoint, again, I'm just trying to burn through this very quickly and summarize from the standpoint of the history of Jersey Village over 65 homestead exemption and how it compares to other over 65 homestead exemptions in the surrounding communities. It's basically right in the average and or a little above average, and it's probably slightly above the mean. And then there were some other points in here, and I do have a question for Austin, because there were concerns about some of the long-term effects of the over 65. If we increase the over 65 exemption, what that does, sort of 5 years looking out, and then also a question about the Lieutenant Governor's double nickel plan, which is to decrease the age requirement on the over 65 homestead exemption to over 55. And again, in the package of materials, and again, I want to compliment the Director of Finance and the City Manager, because they briefed this very well and they provide a good amount of information. But at the very end, I'll come back to the last thing on the double nickel plan that is alluded to. But in looking at this and in considering what's presented, and I'm happy to have a further discussion with council if they want to discuss it, but I agree with what the Director of Finance and the City Manager have said, that right now, because of the city's circumstances, that it's probably a better course of action for the city to hold with the existing 113,000 over 65 homestead exemption. One of my caveats on that is that we need to either keep the existing tax rate the same or reduce it, but obviously not increase it. And so based on that, that's my inclination, that we don't adjust the over 65. But I'm happy to have a discussion with anyone on council, if they're like, no, we really should increase it to 120 or whatever.
Well, I would say, obviously I can't make a decision by myself. If there's a vote for a tax decrease, I'm probably almost always a yes, so I would vote for it. You mentioned about the 55. I was like, well, I'm already for it. You don't have to talk me into it more. I would say, yeah, that's an even bigger bonus. One of the things I would say as a stipulation would be it can't be replaced by increasing taxes somewhere else on the citizens in terms of the property taxes. And I would say all things being equal, with the mantra of all taxation is theft, the least fair version of property is property taxes, so I want that as low as possible. So I would vote for any type of decrease whenever it presents itself. So I would be yes, but obviously we'd have to have other people on the city council as well in order to pass that.
Brian, it comes down to there is no way you decrease here without raising here unless you start cutting.
I'm okay cutting too if we have to.
But then the question becomes, what would you like to cut? And I'm all for efficiency and cutting fat. There are many who have talked about our budget is a very well done, not a lot of fat. But my real talk here is be extremely cautious of, if there's a tax decrease, I want to vote for that. I'm going to go for any kind of tax decrease. Because the city of Jersey Village just did a $20 million bond on water, wastewater projects because past Jersey Village City Council's deferred maintenance, cut budgets, and prevented good preventive maintenance from happening. It was not just council. There was staff involvement. There was mismanagement of some things. Absolutely. But we have to make sure we're always being proactive in our maintenance of our infrastructure and providing the top tier services that Jersey Village does quite well. So we can't just go for any kind of tax decrease.
No, have to be a hard decision that was offset by sales tax revenue, which is, I think, what the councils before us have tried to cultivate was revenue from businesses, so it takes the burden off of the citizens and we can decrease taxes, but responsibly, not just to decrease them without this other big part happening first. So I
agree. And I think at the end of the day, right, like I said, in order for me to support it, there would have to be a commensurate cuts in spending, which I'm prepared to do. But again, it's not just me. Everybody would have to agree with what that is. At the end of the day, you have a list of priorities from A all the way to, let's say, double Z. Well, there's the double Z items that, at a certain point we may decide to cut. But again, it's not just me. So
I do want to say one other thing on this, and that is that the notion, that gets to me when people talk about, can we increase the over 65 exemption? And there's a statement that exists that, seniors are living on a fixed income. And that's true. Most seniors do live on a fixed income, but that fixed income can vary substantially from someone in the senior community who is relying solely upon Social Security and maybe lives in a house that is paid for, but their tax, their utilities, their maintenance, etc., as well as their cost of living, they're struggling to pay those bills, versus a senior who is living on a fixed income based on a X million dollar portfolio and they're getting 4%, and that's an entirely different story. So the reason I say that is I would say that for anyone within the senior community who may be in that situation where they're living on a fixed income and they're struggling, that not only and I don't know the scope, Carrie and Joe, in terms of the organization, how much JVSO helps or whatever, but if somebody is in that situation, I would strongly say, please feel free to reach out to me, and because the senior community, I was actually very surprised to learn how many over 65s there are in the community in terms of the demographics. But the senior community, because that demographic is growing, and we do want to care for them. And so if anybody is in that situation, feel free to I'm sure JVSO has some resources. Feel free to reach out to me confidentially, because we do want to help those people. But my own opinion is at this time it would be fiscally not responsible to increase the over 65 homestead exemption.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does anybody have a closing comment to that discussion? Because it looks like we're going to move on. Okay, moving on to regular agenda. Item 4, discussion consideration of resolution 2026-28, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Garza EMC LLC for design, bid, construction, management related to the Jersey Village capital improvement of Ashburton and Colwyn. Assistant City Manager Robert Bassford.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is being brought forward to approve a resolution to allow Garza EMC to begin the process of designing Ashburton and Colwyn. They will also be a part of the planning, designing, bidding, construction management, and the final walkthroughs as we continue through our capital improvement projects for our street rehabs. They were additional information. They were a part of the RFQ that we did for all the engineering firms, and they have done work for us before with specifics to street rehab as well.
Any questions or comments or motion?
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure everyone understands. This is just authorizing. This is the design, bidding, and construction management. This is not approving a construction contract or awarding a contract. So I just want to make that clear.
And Robert, my question for you with respect to this project is estimated at $2 million, and the engineering services are approximately $190,000, so roughly 10%. Is that typically within the range of what the city would expect?
Yes, typically it's between 9 and 11%. So yeah, this is right on par.
Okay, and forgive me because it may have been in the materials and I may have missed it. But Garza EMC, is this an entity that, or a firm rather, that the city has used before?
Yes, they have done a couple projects with us in regards to street rehab.
Okay, and the city hasn't had any issues with the quality of their work or processes or timeliness?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Does the fee include the survey, construction, observation services, I know it doesn't include geo or materials testing, right?
Correct. That'll be separate.
This is just for the engineering services to get it prepared to put out for bid.
I know. I just want to make sure that.
You're correct.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-28.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes. Moving on to item F5, discussion and consideration, Resolution 2026-29, awarding the bid and authorizing the city manager to execute agreement with SAS Concrete Construction for the Crawford Tahoe Capri Drive Concrete Panel Improvement Project. Assistant City Manager Robert Bassford.
Good evening once again. This item is being brought forward as the city solicited sealed bids for Crawford Street, Tahoe Drive, and Capri Concrete Panel Improvements. Bids were opened on May 27th, and we received a total of 11 bids. We also considered alternatives, as a lot of our street rehabs were designed at the same time. As we opened and started some of these constructions, we found some learning lessons and some efficiencies there. So these are some alternatives that we decided to recommend to be considered. They're listed there in the item. With that being said, after all the alternatives were considered, And the Garza EMC letter recommendation was received. They recommended SAS construction or concrete construction be selected as the lowest and best. They reviewed the submitted bids and contractual qualification statements and awarded SAS construction based on relevant project experience, including the fact that they are currently under contract with the city for sidewalk and panels right now, and they're doing a great job. So that was part of the reason why it was an easy choice moving forward.
Well, also, in your report on this, it says that Garza noted that certain unit prices included in the bid were outside the range of other submitted bids that the firm's qualifications emphasize utility improvement projects. So that was also brought up in there.
That is correct, yes.
Move to approve Resolution 2026-29.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes. Moving on to item F6, discussion and consideration of Resolution 2026-26, awarding the bid and authorizing city manager to execute agreement with the Vita Enterprise for 2 trailer-mounted diesel emergency generators for the municipal wastewater lift stations. City Manager Austin Blease.
Mayor and councilors, back in 2023, we applied for a grant. I applied for a grant to FEMA for generators for our lift stations. That was awarded back in March. So we went out for bids for generators. Aviate Enterprises, Inc. Has the low bid, $139,958 and 60 cents for 2 generators. Those are Generacs with 32-hour run times and meet all of the technical specs that we need. The award, so that award, $139,958, is well within the total project cost that we scoped out at $256. Our 25% match of that will be almost $35,000, and the federal match is about $105,000. So this tonight would authorize the purchase of these, and then we would execute that purchase and continue on with the notice to proceed. Delivery is expected within 11 weeks as per their bid. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, I'm still so grateful that you got this. This is very important stuff. And in the packet, you even provided sort of how long power has been out during other events. Again, if you don't know what a lift station is, you can definitely look it up, but we need them. And generators for that are very necessary, and I see a lot of utility districts investing in them as well. So I'm very grateful that we were able to get this grant. On my checklist, do we need it? Yes. Grant funded mostly, competitive bids, yes. Lower bidders selected. I'm all for this. So that's my 2 cents on this one.
And we got it for less than what it was budgeted for the grant.
And this is just, once again, how efficient and wonderful our city is, something that we needed for cheaper with grant money. So, once again, kudos. Can't say enough great things about how you guys operate. I'll move to approve Resolution 2026-26.
I will second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes. Moving on to item F7, discuss consideration ordinance 2026-17, amending the budget in the 2024 GEO Bonds Capital Project Fund in the amount of $902,624. Jennifer Brown, Finance Director Jennifer Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So this ordinance 2026-17 is setting aside some funds that from the interest earnings that we've earned on the $24 million in bonds that were sold in April of 2024, and that is $2 million to date. I do anticipate we will continue to earn interest until all the funds are spent. Public Works has identified additional reconstruction project that we would need to go ahead and start with engineering work for Colwyn and Ashburton. That was the next street reconstruction project on the list. And that estimate is $352,624. And they are also requesting $400,000 for street panel replacement, and we have listed the names of the streets within the text of the agenda summary. I won't list all the streets, but they are there. And then $150,000 for sidewalk repair and replacement, and that would cover approximately 800 linear feet of sidewalk in locations such as St. Helier, Delosier, Covendale, Lakeview, Rio Grande, and Village Green. And then the budget amendment would allow us to do those projects now rather than waiting until next fiscal year to start. A lot of the times it's easier to get those projects done in the summertime when the kids are not in school, things like that, and less traffic. But if you have any questions on the project specifically, Robert can answer those. I'm just here on the finance side.
So for whenever we earn interest on something like this, we can't just sit on that money and hang out with it, can we?
No, we need to spend it on projects. These projects are consistent with the authorization that the bonds were sold for. And so we are also restricted on the types of projects we can use it on. So these are all in line with the intended purpose of the bonds.
Does this represent the entirety of the realized gains, and is the money already, let's say, allocated to specific projects, or is there still up in the air on what they would be spent on?
There is construction for Colwyn and Ashburton will be in the fiscal year 27 proposed budget. That, I believe, will eat up the majority, if not all, of the remaining earnings. It kind of depends on the arbitrage calculations, which I haven't received the 2025 calculations from 25 to 26. So we do have some IRS guidelines that we have to meet on how quickly we spend the funds and whether we earned more on the funds than we are paying in interest income. So there's some very complicated math that goes into it. And so I'm waiting on our report from our consultants on that. As of last year, we had about $291,000 in potential liability that we have set aside funds for just in case. But anything that we owe, anything we earn over and above what we're paying in interest on the bonds, we have to give it back to the IRS. So it's to our benefit to go ahead and spend the money before we hit that 3-year spending exception.
Okay, ready for a motion?
Move to Ordinance 2026-17, amending the 24 GO Capital Bond Projects Fund in the amount of $902 for the Colwyn and Ashburton reconstruction, street panels, and sidewalk replacement and repair.
Second.
Also. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Macaulay.
You looked at me, Courtney, too. Like it was my voice.
We sound a lot alike, so I couldn't see.
All those in favor? Motion passes. All right, moving on to mayor and council comments. We're going to start on the end. Councilmember Macaulay.
So I did have a question, just with everybody. Is there enough interest in the topic of the herbicides to move it on the agenda for next month? Would you guys be open to that?
Quick poll. Send an email, and if anybody else, if another person is interested, they can also send an email to Courtney, and we can do that.
But that's all I have.
Councilmember Rossi.
Well, thanks to staff for continuing to put together such comprehensive information for council, and the community review. Jennifer, that staff report. The budget season coming up, I want to thank everyone who takes the time out and to be involved in our community. One thing I've learned during my time on council is that many of the decisions we make involve balancing competing priorities, and our job up here is to review the information, listen to residents, ask questions, and do our best to make the best decisions that are in the long-term best interest of JV. And I truly appreciate everyone who stays engaged and shares their perspectives. An informed and involved community is one of the things that makes our city so special, and I'm grateful for everyone who takes the time to participate in that process. So I wanted to thank Councilmember Martin for her service to JV, and I wish you all the luck in the world.
Councilmember Britton.
Remind everybody that this week is a holiday on Friday, so keep that in mind. Michelle, didn't serve with you very long, but I thank you very much for the service that you provided to our city, and I look forward to many more packets. These packets are in depth, but in saying that, the city takes full passion. Full passion in every issue that every one of our neighbors have, and they take time and energy to respond to those accordingly, whether it's an email to the city manager or to one of us, whether or not it's a question that one of the city council has. The answers are in depth, and they give you perspective far beyond what you expect. You're looking at things from one perspective, and when you ask the city and they come back with their response, you're looking at it from now 5 or 6 different perspectives, and it makes you think outside the box. It's very appreciated, and I look forward to serving.
Councilmember Hughes.
So, as always, appreciate everybody who came and participated in the City Council meeting, making public comments here in person, and those of you who are watching video now or video later. It's important to stay informed of what's going on. I think, echoing on what Michael just said, you know, there are issues involving the city. We've seen the posts, and people have raised concerns. One was on the over 65 exemption, possibly increasing it. I asked, and the city manager and the director of finance did a fantastic job of briefing the issue. I thought that the process to allow the residents to see that, you know, these issues to residents are not going unheard. They're being discussed, but at the same time, we're trying to make the best decision for everyone in the city. Same with respect to what Brian brought up with respect to the pesticides and the mosquito spraying, and what a couple of the speakers that making public comments, Mrs. Terrigian. These are concerns, and council wants to address them, but we also need to get information from city staff so we can take it into consideration and make good decisions for you. So again, I appreciate everybody participating in the process. I do encourage anyone who has interest in the vacancy on council to submit an application through the city's website, to put a thoughtful documentation together as to, you know, why you want to be on council and what you can bring to the table, and to be prepared and come speak to council at the next meeting, so you can help us make the best decision to appoint someone to fill the remainder of Michelle's term and do a good job in representing you. And finally, Michelle, I've only sat next to you here for a year or so, but I appreciate the opportunity and to serve with you on City Council. I know you're turning a chapter in your book of life, and I hope that your move and the changes that you're making end up being positive for you, and I wish you well and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Simon.
Councilmember Martin, for the last time.
I know. It's my last one, guys. Well, here we are. Thank you. It is a really exciting chapter for me, a much-needed chapter for me and the girls. So we're excited for the next chapter, although it's very bittersweet. I would like to say I really have poured my heart and soul in the city, and I'll still be here My practice isn't moving. My friends, family, they're still here too. So I'll be here, just not necessarily up here on the dais. Chief, I'm probably still going to text you from time to time. Sorry about that. But I do want to say my time up here has been invaluable. I've learned how to be a better leader, how to be a better human, how to listen even when it's really tough. And I wanted to say thank you to Austin. Austin, I don't know if I could ever tell you how much you have changed my life. This is not even like counsel, but he helped me through exiting one business and starting up my current that I'm in. And the reason I am successful is because of this man. And I will say it to, I tell him all the time, I will scream to the mountaintops of how he shaped me as a leader. And I think that's probably why I fight for him so hard on the dais, because outside of this, he's just one of the best humans, and he does this. Mentors many, many people. This is why he's commerce. I don't even accolades are crazy, because he really is one of the best humans. If you get a chance to be one of his people in his orbit, you are very lucky. He's a wonderful man. So thank you for everything you've done for me. My life would not be the same if you were not in it. This is probably the saddest and sweetest goodbye, but thank you so much for letting me serve you and listening to me up here rant and be vocal, and still giving me a hug when you see me on the street. It's been an honor, and I really wish the best of luck to whoever sits in this seat after me.
Thank you very much. The city is quite meticulous and does a really good job at balancing some very competing needs, and the entire executive staff does a very good job. I was going to remind everybody, Juneteenth is on Friday, so the city offices are closed, and then the Jersey Village Market is coming up, I think, this Sunday. There's camps going on. And then all important, July 4th is coming up. The city does a really great event on July 4th that you should come out to. There's a parade at 10 o'clock. And then festival, I think, starts at 6. So come on out and meet some neighbors. It's really well attended by people from the city. Awesome to find out that we're going to use some interest to do a little bit of extra work. There's no way we're making more interest than we're paying, but hey, it's good use of the funds. And when you go research what a lift generator is, read about it, don't watch it. So that is it. I look forward to seeing everybody in the July meeting. Thank you very much for coming out, and we're adjourned at 8:37.